Okay, you're now live, Chair.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Councillor Sally DePay, Chair of this committee. I would like to inform everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet via the Council's website and will be capable of repeated viewing. The images and sounds recorded may be used for training purposes within the Council. In order to ensure that the meeting is managed effectively, can everyone please adhere to the following guidelines? Councillors should only use the raise hand function and speak when requested. Only speak when invited to do so by the chair. Please switch off your camera and your microphone when not speaking, and remember to set your mobile phone to silent for the duration of the meeting. Any views expressed by any speaker in this meeting are the speaker's own, and they do not necessarily reflect the views of the council. Please can councillors be aware that the webcast will continue to be streamed live 20 seconds after the close of the meeting. This is due to a time delay in transmitting live. I will now confirm the names of the members of this committee. Councillor DePay, Councillor Baker, Councillor Benzer, Councillor Capper, Councillor Evans, Councillor Hardy, Councillor Huddleston, Councillor Kirkham, Councillor Mackey, Councillor R. McEwen, Councillor Roberts and Councillor Scott. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we've got apologies from Councillor Baker, Councillor Huddleston, Councillor Roberts with Councillor Sizeland as substitute.
Super, thank you. Can we set to approve the minutes of the previous meeting? Can I have a proposer and a seconder? Thank you, Rob. Rob, have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Super, thank you, Simon. Okay, can I take this opportunity to receive any disclosures of interest on any matters before the committee? Take that nobody has anything to disclose. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is the gambling policy, and we will pass over to Alicia.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Can you hear me okay, everybody?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine.
All right, lovely, thank you. So, yeah, I'll start the report for the gambling policies. So this is in relation to the consultation responses. And the purpose of this report is to ensure that the Council complies with its legal obligations as provided by the Gambling Act of 2005, which requires that the Council must consult and publish a revised statement of principles every 3 years. The recommendation for tonight is that the committee considers the consultation response attached in Appendix A and recommends that Council approve the revised Statement of Principles 2025 to 2028, which is attached in Appendix B. Section 349 of the Gambling Act requires the Council, as the licensing authority, to prepare and publish a Statement of Principles under the Gambling Act 2005 every 3 years. The Council Statement of Principles is due for renewal in 2025, and the statement will last 3 years for a 3-year period, but may be reviewed at any time prior to this by the authority. Further requirement of the Act is that the revised policy must be approved at a full meeting of the Council, and such approval needs to be taken, and the meeting should be held, will be held shortly for the full Council. So for tonight, it's to discuss the consultation responses and advise any alterations if needed by members, and to recommend for full Council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alicia. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Evans.
Yes, thank you. It's just a brief question, really. 3.4. The council only received 3 responses. We have one from GamCare, which was attached, and 2 other responses from Derbyshire Police and Thornhill Parish Council with no comments. So they literally sent a blank response.
Yeah, that they thank you for the policy with no comments.
Right, a no comment response as opposed to, right, okay, perfect. Is that unusual that there's such a low amount of response, or is that just to take it that everything's fine in the garden?
It's yeah, that's how it normally goes, really, because it's not a new policy, it's just an update, really. So we just update on any new legislation, any new guidance that comes in, really. So yeah, that would be a normal response, really.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you, Alicia. Oh, sorry, Bob.
Yeah, just a comment. You know, we just do this routinely, but I think with all the publicity about problem gambling at the moment, all the adverts on the television, you know, everything, you know, it's quite important that we do it properly. And thanks to Alicia, it's done that again. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo that, Bob. I think, you know, we take it for granted that these things are just appear, and there's a lot of hard work that goes into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's going to go to the full council for approval. Yeah. Okay, so should we move on to the item number 4?
Okay, thank you, Chair. So item number
Sorry,
item number 5.
Number
yeah.
5, yeah, the
Yeah,
animal
that's fine.
policy. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you, Chair. So under item number 5 is the animal licence policy. So this is actually a new policy that we've brought in, hopefully with members' support. And this policy, sorry, just bear with me 2 seconds. I'm just moving my screen up here so that I can get it. Okay, right. So reason for this report is to support the council's commitment to transparency, fairness and openness with determined applications and ensure compliance with the relevant legislation in respect of animal licensing. Animal licensing was changed a few years ago, and a whole raft of new legislation was brought in to protect licensed premises, but also around animal welfare and making sure that licensed premises or unlicensed premises were not overbreeding on dogs, etc., and that the so-called type of puppy farms were avoided, really. So the recommendation tonight for members is that approve the adoption of the animal licensing policy. It will last again for 3 years, but we can review it throughout that period of time if need be, or if legislation changes. There is no current animal licence policy covering High Peterborough Council, and whilst there is no statutory requirement for the policy under the legislation relating to these types of licences, it is considered appropriate to produce a single policy which sets out a clear and consistent framework for the council's approach to animal licensing, and the adoption of this policy will support the council's commitment to transparency, fairness and openness in determining those applications. So it has gone out for consultation, a meeting held in November 2024. At that committee, the approved draft for consultation was sent out. So the full consultation was carried out, and there is some consultation responses there in Appendix A. Now, we have responded to those consultation responses in service and made it clear where the policy applies and where legislation may not apply. So those are there to read Appendix A, and the licensing policy is attached to Appendix B, which has been amended with any of the consultation responses there to make it clearer where comments were made. So for members tonight to have a look and approve that if they feel that they would like to support that policy for us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Does anybody have any comments before we move on to approve? Simon?
Sorry, me again. I just to sort of reiterate what was said for the last policy. Really, this is a new policy. It's taken a lot of work, so very grateful, and it's a really good piece of work. I think covers pretty much everything we wanted to cover, as evidenced by the consultation responses. I just have a point of information again. On the report, page 61. In the policy itself, it's under section 1.6 organizational arrangements. Just the sort of the final paragraph of that, just for my own sanity, and whether this is something I've missed, it says High Peak Borough Council work in conjunction with Staffordshire County Council twice in that sentence. Is that right?
It is correct, yes, we have a
Oh, right.
service level agreement with them. They have specialist animal officers, animal welfare officers there, and they do support us. So yeah, it's not a typo. It is Staffordshire County Council that we work with. I mean, we did approach Derbyshire County Council, but they don't have the same level of professional officers there to support us for our inspections. So that's done in conjunction with them across our alliance.
And so, so following on from that, then I suspect my next question is: these things will outlive what is potentially likely to happen in terms of local government reorganisation. What are we already thinking about how we need to rejig both the last policy and this policy in terms of that, and how that will affect it? Because I didn't realise we had any work with Staffordshire County Council and others, and I can't remember off the top of my head what's happening in Staffordshire in terms of LGR. So are we already thinking about the provisions of what's happening going forward?
Yes, Councillor. So the SLA is reviewed every 12 months, and it's a 12-month rolling contract with us. So we have commissioning meetings with them to make sure that we're on track with all of our animal welfare. They support not only ourselves but other local authorities across Derbyshire and also Staffordshire. So there isn't a problem with that. Like I say, it's a yearly review. So when the time comes and we have to decide, how things are being divvied up, then the support is still there, and we do have officers, and we have actually looked to reinforce our team as well. And we have got one of our pest control officers who is now upskilling around animal welfare as well on the High Peak side, and that's been really successful the last few weeks. So we are trying to future-proof the service. But yeah, in relation to the SLA, it is just a 12-month rolling contract.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's great. It's nice that we're adopting this policy and taking it forward as far as we are with that. It's not needed, but it's something that the council are taking very seriously. Does anybody else have any other questions? No, can't see anything. So do we want to vote on this then, whether or not we want to adopt it forward, or is it just?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Can I have a proposer and a seconder?
Yeah, can I have a proposer and a second, please, too?
I'm happy to propose that, Chair.
Thank you, Simon. And thank you, Bob. Super. Thank you very much. Yeah, fab. I really like that policy. I think it just, it sets us in good stead for the future, like you say. Okay, should we move on to item number 6?
Okay, thank you, Chair. And just to say thank you to members for the support on the animal licensing policy. Will help the enforcement officers and help us to have that framework in place. So thank you for that. I'll go on to the final report for tonight then, which is our enforcement update. Okay, so the reason for the report tonight is just to update members on the recent enforcement activity undertaken within the licensing section in the period since the last meeting, which was held in November 2024. So the recommendation is that members note the contents of the report. So for the period between November 2024, the licensing services engaged in a number of enforcement actions. These activities have involved reactive responses to complaints, intelligence received from public and partner agencies, as well as proactive compliance checks. It's pleasing to report that licence section overall has had good compliance with the applicable legislation. So in 3.4 is a summary of the enforcement activity that has been carried out. So there's a list there of the different functions that we've had through, so TENS, lake TENS, road closures, etc., and the different licences that we determine. We've also done some joint visits with the police and with EHOs, so that would be around, if there's been an issue with the premises or noise, etc., and so the wider environmental health disciplines. We've had appointments with premises licence holders. Again, we would look to encourage them for compliance and longer sustained compliance. So it's always best that we have appointments with them to discuss applications and make sure that they're fully aware of what they need to do and what their requirements are. We have started doing vehicle checks now. We've also started doing some additional enforcement. I was there the other day with Sandra, our licensing officer, on the ranks in Glossop to just make sure that everything was being adhered to there. So we are planning some additional taxi checks, and we have appointed a new enforcement officer who will be starting with us hopefully in the next 4 to 6 weeks, which is really pleasing. And we've also got interviews next week for an additional support officer to complete the licensing team. CCTV is still being looked at within the department, and we are still working with the police around whether or not we have sufficient evidence for any mandatory requirement on that. At the moment, we haven't. So we are just reviewing that as and when. And we are looking at a review of the Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle policy this year. So that will, a draft proposal will be brought to the next meeting in July, later in the year. And we would look to go out to do a full 12-week consultation on that with some additional proposals there. I've also put a little bit in there about animal welfare, just really, and again, it's really down to members whether or not you'd like me to include some of that, but I felt it was timely as we've got the policy there. So just so that you've got an idea of the type of inspections, the number of licence applications that are coming in, and the type of licences that are determined for that. Thank you, Chair. Any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Pam?
Alicia, thank you so much for that summary. Your checks on the taxi ranks, I've been looking at a lot of the taxis that are around in the area. A lot of them have got registered with the City of Wolverhampton. Do your checks cover those vehicles, or is it still for Wolverhampton to actually supervise and check those?
Okay, so where there are issues with those taxis, we'll report back to Wolverhampton. But if they're on our ranks or if their conduct is not correct, then we will be pulling the vehicles in, and we'll be speaking to the drivers, and we'll be reporting it back. So we'll be gathering evidence if there is an issue.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yep.
Thank you, Pam. Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to comment, you must be doing something right, because up to about 5 years ago, we used to have licensing panels at least once a month, and whether it be for taxi drivers, pubs or whatever, but they're very, very few now. So, you know, whatever you're doing is working well with both the people with the licenses and the department. Plus, it saves us a lot of time sitting on panels. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Bob. Alan?
Yes, thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Chair. Just interested in the animal welfare element, and there's I noticed at the bottom one there's a dangerous wild animal. Was this reported by a member of the public or another councillor, and what type of dangerous animal was it?
I can tell you exactly what it was. They are Gila monsters, and it is in a private property, and they are subject to licence. So we have to go along and make sure that they've got escape procedures, and make sure that we take a vet along with us. So it's perfectly legal, but they have to apply for a dangerous wild animal licence. So there's a whole list of dangerous wild animals that we have to oversee and licence. So yes, that's what that relates to. So we have quite a few.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Alicia. And I'd just like to say thank you very much as well for the 2 previous reports as well in terms of the licensing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Simon?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one from me regarding the Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle policy, which we're going to have for review in the next meeting. Given this ongoing issue around CCTV and taxis, is that something that we're likely to see as part of that policy renewal? so we can kind of kill two birds with one stone, if you like, or will that still be a separate issue going forward?
So we will be reviewing the policy. Again, there is no appetite at the moment by the police. We haven't got sufficient evidence to bring in a mandatory policy, but what we will be doing is those taxis that have their own CCTV, and we'll be looking at that policy and making sure that they are compliant. So whilst it's not mandatory, if they are voluntarily installing CCTV, which some of them are, we need to make sure that that is regulated and that the authority can get access to that as well if need be. So we'll be looking at the whole policy. We'll be looking, you know, from start to finish, really. We were well in advance when we produced that policy in 2016. And just to pick up on Councillor McEwen's point earlier, we brought in the penalty point system, so that has alleviated an awful lot of need for, you know, constant subcommittees, and that is working very well. And part of the rank inspections, part of our presence there, both myself and the new members of the team, is really to reinforce that and make sure that those penalty points are being adhered to, and you know that regulation is working well to keep that robust policy going, really. So you know, we are really pleased that we've had that support over the years around the policy, but it is timely now that we do a full review, really, and bring in everything that we've done piecemeal over the last few years, really, and just produce a new policy for however long that will be in place.
Thank you.
Super, thank you. Thank you for a very thorough update on there. Has anybody got any other questions? Anything else on the end of this meeting? I think that concludes our meeting for the evening. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alicia, for putting that extensive report together, and the licensing team, and I'm sure you're looking forward to the extra members of staff that are coming shortly. But we do appreciate what you do. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Elise.